Priana TV, watch all you want.
Hello, Africa. Welcome to the first edition of Let's Build Africa. My name is Prince Hoto, your gracious co-host. And this program is brought to you and sponsored by Priana TV. Okay, so today's topic is the first edition. And so today we'll be talking about the missing link between education and employment. I have the honor to introduce two important guests today who have agreed to grace this program. On my far right is Job Okello, who is a student in Egypt Japan University of Science and Technology. Okello is an author, he is a researcher, he's an entrepreneur, he's also a mechanical engineer, and he is a Pan-Africanist. Wow. And then he's pursuing industrial engineering and systems management here in Egypt, master's in Egypt. On my far left is Donas Carissa Bebari. I hope I pronounced your name very well.
No, that wasn't right.
He is from Uganda, and he's an electrical engineer by training, and then he's pursuing master's in electrical engineer in Egypt. Thank you very much for agreeing to be in this show. Hope everyone is fine. How is studies?
So far, so good.
So far, so good. You are not having any issues with your lecturers, professors?
It's going to be challenging, but at the end of the day, we are progressing.
That's very nice. Mr. Joe, how is studies going?
Things are fine. Everything is fine.
Okay. So how are you finding the courses? Are the professors, the lecturers, are they teaching you or are they explaining?
Very challenging, very engaging, but above all, we're making great progress.
Okay, so today we want to talk about a very important topic because, as you all know, we face a lot of problems as youth in Africa. More importantly, our education and employment. Most of the issues that arises from demonstration, youth complaining about the government, youth complaining about situations in their country, in African country, is due to the fact that it's either there are no jobs, there is no money, or there is no proper education. So today, we want to tackle and discuss this issue. And to you, my fellow youth and people in Africa who are watching, we want you to stay tuned and to enjoy this discussion. So the topic again is the missing link between education and employment, which is very important, very, very important. So I would like to start with you. Please, what can you tell me? What can you tell me about education?
Well, thanks a lot for the wonderful question. Education is a very important aspect of life, which should never be joked with. Nelson Mandela said, education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. And we cannot deny the fact that if we really want to change our lives, we must be educated. Now, education is actually the primary purpose of education is for mind enlightenment. So, any other thing is secondary. When you go to school, when you are educated, you are enlightened in the mind. You can see things that they should be, as they're supposed to be. You can identify problems, and then you can bring out solutions to the problems. That's the purpose of education. The end result should be someone who can think creatively and innovatively and create solutions to existing problems. That's a totally educated person. Yeah, that's my simple take.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll be going for a commercial break and we'll be right back. back to this segment again. Let's Build Africa. So before we had a break, Mr. Job was talking about, he zoomed in more into the importance of education, how education is very needed to build a nation. And then he spoke about the likes of Nelson Mandela and some prominent people, how they have emphasized on the importance of education in Africa. Mr. Joe, I'm coming to you again. Yes, so Mr. Donat made a very good submission. He spoke a lot and he highlighted some very important points. Now, my question to you is, as children growing up in the African community, as children growing up, they need to be educated. They need to learn how to speak. They need to learn how to write, because whether we like it or not, they were born in the system. So, even though when they trace their lineage, they are not supposed to speak English or they're not supposed to speak French, but because they are born in the system, they have to learn the language. And so they have to go to school. Now, my question is, they have to know basic things about life. Maybe how to speak the English, like I said earlier, how to be able to calculate, how to know mathematics, how to have sound knowledge of basic science, how to be grilled in some creative arts. All these things are very important to maybe highlight some very important characters about their life. Now, my point is, at what point in the life of these children should there be a divergence? A divergence, like at what point, maybe after preschool, is it after maybe after senior high school or junior high school? Should they be told towards a particular direction? Because for me, I believe, for instance, in my country, you will be taught some general subjects from preschool to high school to senior high school. You still go through those same high general subjects. Do you think that it's important that maybe after preschool, the children or the child, his talent, his gift should be identified, so that a different path can be told for him, rather than spending a lot of years learning a lot of things that are important? What do you think?
That's a very beautiful question. I want to begin by making this bold statement. Any education system that does not make out the best in someone is not designed for that person. Now, the education system we have in Africa does not make out the best in Africa. Automatically, it was not designed for Africa. Now, when a child goes to school, they are taught using a system which will not make out the best in them. So through that system, a child can never discover their talents, never develop their talents. So what then do we need to do? Before your child goes to school, as a parent, you need to identify the interests of the child. And you begin to model that child along their interests. So when you identify the areas in which your child is interested, you make sure your child is modeled along that line. This is not something in other parts of the world. It's only in Africa where we're just following the system which was designed, not for us. But when we help our children are supposed to discover their talents as soon as possible, the earlier the better. So now, if a child discovers their talents and gifts in the areas of interest, it is the role of now the parent and the society and the school to model the child along that line. There is no wisdom in making a child study things he will never use. That's wasting resources, wasting time, wasting opportunities. When you look at like the system in my country, a child has to study history, science, physics, chemistry, all those subjects. When he will need just one area, let's say just one area to focus on, instead of identifying the interest of the child as early as possible and developing the child along that line, so that we have specialized knowledge. Not that people who are controlling the world are people who have specialized knowledge. Those are people who are making a lot of money. Now, our education systems make us learn so many things. Make us learn a little about so many things. So you know a little about so many things. What can you do with a little about so many things? Now, for other continents, like Europe, they learn a lot about little. A typical European kid learns learn so much about so little, so they become an expert, a specialist. It is very difficult to find a child who is an expert in Africa, who was schooled through our system. It's not possible. Because we are not trained to know so much about so little, so we are not specialists. That's why it becomes very, very difficult for that child to fit into the society. Because in the world we live in right now, the world is governed by those who have specialized knowledge, most of the people controlling the world. So we need to identify the talents and gifts of our children as well as possible, and then develop those talents. Because at the end of the day, it is the talents that will make room for them in the world.
Wow, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Before we continue, I want to remind the general public and those watching that this is Priana TV, and the show is Let's Build Africa, the first edition. Okay, Mr. Donat, I'm coming to you again. Now, Mr. Donat, from what my brother Job said right now, you realize that he made some serious statement about the fact that we are teaching the children, or we are teaching our children so many things that are not relevant, that are not needed. We need to tap into what they actually meant to do. Now, so the question is, Mr. Donat, if you give birth, you have a child, and you realize that the child is always interested in singing, is always interested in instruments, and then maybe he tells you, Daddy, I want to go to music school, but your plan for him is to be a medical doctor, what would be your action?
First of all, just like I indicated previously, it is wrong for you to think that your child should be a medical doctor when it is not his interest. So, in my opinion, if I identify that this child is more interested in music, but of course, at the end of the day, I wish the best for my children. So, I would, like I said earlier, that would be another thing for me now to push my kid through that line of education. Well, of course, we are in a system, just like one of us said, in the system and the national system that you cannot just change. But from a personal level, I would take this kid through the national system of education, at the same time, push him, to get the best out of his interest of the musical career. And at the end of the day, and I've seen it somehow with some Africans, where, and for sure, most of our people in the music industry, or even other talents in the sport, they have gone. Most of them have gone to the highest level of education. They have been to university. But the difference is that many African parents, and including the other stakeholders in the education system, are more prioritized towards that education system of my kid should be a medical doctor, should be an engineer, those prestigious careers. At the end of the day, a kid has what interests him or her. So if you identify it the earlier, the better. Let the kid go through a national system of education, but support them. In their holidays, you have the system allows allows breaks. During the breaks, if you can afford, take this kid to the music schools. Buy a cheap instrument if you can afford it. Support them emotionally, psychologically. It doesn't have to be finance if you cannot afford the finances. But speaking to them that, well, I think this is good, yes, you can do it. At the end of the day, while you pursue your education career, at the end of the day, this is also good for you. You can do it. Yes, you can do it. And you feed them this kind of positive energy towards what they like. At the end of the day, they achieve it. And the other day, I was sharing with a friend, and surprisingly, we were talking about the same challenge, the same problem that we're sharing right here. And I jokingly asked, So we went to school. We got the next grades well, and we did the best wherever we went. But at the end of the day, what difference does it make? Okay? What difference is it making? Apart from the fact that you got the nice grades, what else can we do? If they get employment out of the equation, how can we survive? So, and again, this is what I'll do with my kids. As high as maybe 5, I should be able to know. You can easily tell what a kid likes. Try to, mentor them, support them in any way. Or if you cannot identify it as high as possible, open them, take them to these different fields. Take them to the musical, let them interface with some musicians, or cultural activities, swimming, the sport world. So at the end of the day, this kid will find something that will spark their talent, and you tend to see them, now see them tend to take a certain direction. Support them financially, emotionally, and at the end of the day, they should be able to get something in addition to the
skills they have.
the skills they have and the national system of education.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, Mr. Joe.
Yes.
So, my question to you, from what you have said, my question to you is, what is the purpose? You said earlier on that education is important in building the individual and helping the nation. But my question here is, are we to be educated because we want to get a job, or we are educated to have knowledge to help us through our lives? Because in Africa, it looks like people are struggling to go to school, take loans to pay for school fees, get the highest degree, because they know if they get their PhD, they get their masters, maybe their salary, they will have a fat salary. Things like that. So the question is our mind tuned to going to school because we want to make money out of it? Or are we supposed to program ourselves that we want to acquire knowledge just for the acquisition only?
Very beautiful question. The reason why many of African graduates are frustrated and disappointed is because they went to school with the notion that they will get out of their jobs. It's a very, very, very unfortunate belief. So they went to school for the wrong reason. They didn't understand the primary purpose of education. Why do we go to school? I was speaking to some university students one time and asked a question: why do you go to school? Why are you at school? And I got funny answers. I want to get a job, I want to be a lawyer, a doctor. The wrong reason. Education is supposed to make you enlightened in the mind. So when you're enlightened, you can then identify opportunities yourself. You can think and do for yourself. So then when you can think and do for yourself, you can see the problems that exist in the world, starting right where you are, before you have. So when you identify the problems, you can then create solutions. Education is supposed to produce those who create solutions to problems, not those who go out and seek to be employed. Employment is secondary benefit, but the primary benefit is supposed to be you should create solutions to the problem. So that the problem with Africa is that we go to school with this mindset that after school we should get a job. That's the biggest problem. And we need to change that. Because if you go to school, you must come out of school and then do something about the problems in the community. You not get out of school and then sit and wait to be employed. No. Those papers are good, get the papers. But then most importantly, get the knowledge. Because it is the knowledge in your head that you will use to transform lives in the world. So we need to change that mindset, that thinking that when we go to school to get jobs after school. That is what is causing a lot of unemployment in the country, because when you go to school with the notion that you get out of school and get a job, and you get out of school, you don't get a job, you become frustrated and so disappointed, you become depressed. Until we change that mindset, we will never achieve our targets for going to school. So we need to change that. So that when we go to school, we go to acquire knowledge and skills and wisdom, so that we come out and use the knowledge and wisdom and skills to transform lives by identifying problems and finding solutions to the problem. Anyone who creates solutions to the problem will always make money, because people pay for solutions to the problem. As long as you can create solutions to the problem, you will always make money. So the people who are making money right now, in any aspect of life, and who are solving problems in that aspect of life, if you cannot create any solution to any problem, you will not make any money. How do we make money? Two things. You either create products or services. So if with your education you cannot create either products or services, you can never make money. Even those who are employed, they're employed so problems. So most of our graduates they seek employment when they're actually not employable because they lack the skills. They have the knowledge, they've memorized a lot of things from school, but they cannot apply what they have. So that's now the missing link. We have knowledge which we cannot apply. Somebody studies about the turbine, but they've never seen a turbine. They can do so many calculations about the turbine, but they cannot identify a turbine in real life. When such a person is employed by an electrical company, they are supposed to work on the turbines, but they've never seen it. But they know a lot of calculations, so what can that person do? So we need to change that. When we change our mindset from acquiring knowledge to be employed, to acquiring knowledge to solve problems, we will be able to acquire skills that will help us when we get out of school.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Cho. Mr. Donat, from what he said, he was saying, I got some information that I need some clarification from you. So now, education is supposed to enlighten us, to give us the knowledge, so that we can ideally solve problems when we meet them, create solutions to problems in our societies. Now, the question is our education, the education that we get in Africa, able to satisfy that purpose? Is it able to equip us to be able to do that? Or is it just a system where we just memorize things? Is our education system able to equip us with the skills, with the intellect, to be able to analyze situations and provide solutions? I mean, in Africa.
The system in itself, yes, it should be able to, at the end of the day, enlighten us and to be able to acquire the knowledge. But what the problem is, the mindset now. You enter into school, and this mindset, of course, is the standard is set by the stakeholders, yes. People, the planners, the parents. So by the time you get to school, your mind is being oriented towards going to school to acquire papers in order to get employment. But the system itself can help you, can enable us to get the knowledge and the skills that we perhaps require to be able to survive in the world. But the mindset that is being given to the kids right away from childhood stages. Because you see, if you remember those days when we were young, the parents would tell you, even the teachers, what when you grow, what would you like to be? They will tell you, yes, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be an engineer. So you see, the mindset is wrong just from the onset. You see, go to school, be a doctor. You see, there's neighbor family here, and the father is a doctor, and he has made a lot of money. So if this has to change, it has to start right from home, right from maybe the primary education. These kids need to be told that you go to school, get enlightened, to acquire knowledge, to acquire a skill set that at the end of the day you can be able to use to provide a solution to the world challenges. So again, back to the system. Definitely, like any other system, there is always going to be challenges. The system has challenges. Of course, inadequate financing. Most think African states have not prioritized the education system. If you look, for example, at I'll give an example of Uganda in the financial year 2020-2021. Education was allocated 8% of the total national budget against security. We are not in a war. We are currently not fighting against the war. So, but you see, education is given a less appropriation compared to security. Security was, I think, more than 10%. And education was given 8%. So, the system is not well financed. So, this of course, these challenges. Though we have an example of a student who is pursuing engineering. They can do all sorts of calculations, all mathematical models about the generator, but they have never seen a generator in real life. They do not know anything about it. If they will give them, if you will take them to real life and show them a generator, they will not be able to identify it. So, if still with the current system, if it can be, given priority and well financed and well invested, and of course, these things are set up in the schools, the budgets are well invested. I feel that at the end of the day, if we couple the mindset change and more financing into the system, we should be able to get what we want.
I'm really enjoying the discussion. A lot of wisdom and a lot of ideas that could help build African nation. That is if only the leaders will listen. There's a problem. So, Mr. Joe,
Yes.
sir, from what my friend has said, he made very important statements. Now, he spoke about the skills. He spoke about the fact that the kids from the onset of their life must be educated to understand that it is not just about being a doctor, being a lawyer, but they should understand that they are going into the system to become better people. Now, my question is, if you go to the Western world, okay, those who are educated in the skilled labor, majority of the things that are technical stuff, technical know-how, machinery, you don't need to go to the university. They go to technical schools, technical colleges, and then they gain those skills. In the Western world, like US for instance, someone who is a civil engineer or someone who has a technical know-how about how to do a lot of things, how to fix things, may receive more salary than someone who has an MBA. And it is very clear in the Western world. But if you come to the African world, someone who has gone to a technical college, okay, is not respected in the company. But someone who has gone to the university has gotten a degree, has gotten an MBA, or he is a civil engineer, by not with practice, not technical, but with the fact that he went to the university and he knows how to do calculation, he had first class, will be receiving more salary than someone who went to technical college. Now, don't you think this is also the reason why people do not want to even go to the technical side? They want to go to the university, crample a lot of words just because they want to gain more money. And to add to it, when you come to my country and then you see people constructing roads, those that went to the universities are the foremen. They are the maybe I would say the managers, or they are the CEOs of the company. And then they will sit, relax, get the contract, get the money, and then direct those who actually do the main work. Then at the end of the day, when the salary is being shared by the pyramid, those who actually know the skill get crumbs. So don't you think this is also another problem that we face in Africa? And if this is the case, what is the solution for this?
Well, the major difference between the African education system and the Western system is that West, they appreciate skills. Their system is more practical than our system. Our system is theoretical. We go to school, we master things which we don't even know how to apply. But for them, they don't master everything. They just pick a little, which they can apply directly. That's why an average graduate in the Western world can survive in any part of the world more easily compared to his counterpart in Africa, because they have skills which they can apply. But in Africa, many of us come out of schools as lawyers, as engineers, but then we cannot even apply that knowledge we have because of that gap. We acquire the knowledge, but we don't practice that knowledge in the process of acquisition of the knowledge. Now, for them in the Western world, when they're studying, they're getting their theoretical knowledge, they are applying the same. So they acquire theory and apply the theory in practice. They put it to practice. And that makes them fully prepared for the employment world. Now, when you come to Africa, it's a different story. It's very different. When we get, because we learn so little about someone, and that becomes a problem for them. They learn so much about so little. So they become experts, specialists on that small area. They have specialized knowledge on an area. But in Africa, we know a little about so much, so that when we get out of school, we cannot easily fail. Because when you're not going to be employed in all these areas. If an engineer is employed to construct roads, this is the same guy who spent time studying history. When his counterpart was already doing practice in the field, he was still studying history, geography in high school. But those guys, they specialize at an early age. So that a child who is going to become an engineer does not study history. They don't always study history. While we're studying history, they are doing practice in the field. So at the end of the day, they are more experienced than us. But now, unfortunately, in Africa, the people who went to the university are more respected, because in Africa we don't value skills. We value theoretical knowledge. So when somebody is a professor, we respect him so much. We don't even mind what is he doing in the society, what is his contribution to the problems in society. So with our system, we cannot directly solve problems because we lack the skills. We have the knowledge, but we lack the skills. We cannot easily apply the knowledge. To apply the knowledge, you need skills, which we don't get from school, by the way. We don't get minimal skills. Somebody does the calculations, but how to apply the calculations, we lack. That's the main. Now, for them in the Western world, they get the knowledge and the skills. You acquire skills through application, through practice. You cannot acquire skills through theory. So that's the challenge, that's the difference between the Western system and our African system. Now, in the Western world, people appreciate those who solve problems. Even somebody who did not go to school, as long as he can create something, he will be celebrated. He will become a hero. Even if he doesn't have any paper, as long as he can solve. Because for them, they understand life better than us. They know that those who solve problems are the people who thrive in any circumstance. Now, our system prepares us not to be problem solvers. Because if we cannot think and do for ourselves, how can we identify the problem? We cannot. Yeah, so we need to integrate skills into our system so that when we learn the theoretical knowledge, we acquire the skills through the application. So that if somebody is studying mechanical engineering, in the morning he can do the calculations, but he has to apply the calculation in real life. It is very common in Africa to find a mechanical engineer who cannot even repair a bicycle. It is very common. A civil engineer who cannot even design a toilet, cannot design and construct a modern day toilet. But he can calculate. He can do the calculation. But then in the Western world, they care more about what will you do with the skills, not where will you be employed with the skills. But in Africa, where will you get a job with So that's why you have to go up to the university, you have to study as much as you can. Because at any level, there is nothing much you can do. So when you get to the higher level, you think you can acquire certain high positions. But for them, it is not about the level of education. It's about what can you do with the knowledge you have. That's the biggest difference.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Mr. Donat, I'm coming to know you again.
Yes, please.
Okay, so now the discussion is getting heated up. We are getting to hear some important key points and some limitations of our system. Now, if you come to my country, Ghana, majority, I would say over 60% of the economy is boosted by the informal sector. Yet, the government does not respect the informal sector. You go to people who, we have what we call mason. They build people's houses. We have carpentry. We have those who sell in the market, the tomato sellers, the onion sellers, the garden, those who sell in the market. The amount of influence that comes from them that goes to the government is very huge. If they are given a budget analysis of the influence of these sectors to the government, you realize that the majority of this influence comes from the informal sector. And majority of those in the informal sector are not educated. So the question is education really important? Because those who are actually providing the economy or boosting the economy are those who are informal sectors, not those who are going to school. Rather, those who are going to school are rather taking from the government. They are rather making the government spend more. Because a lecturer, the university lecturer, is taking his salary every month, huge salary every month. He's taking allowances, research allowances. Okay? And these monies that he is getting, are not even from the fees student pay. Most of these salaries and monies he or she will get are from taxes that are being generated as a result of majority of the informal sectors. So the question is, if at the end of the day I go to school and I did not help the country generate more income for itself or stability for itself, and I'm still getting my salary as a result of the informal sector, then what is the importance of education in Africa? Why is it important for us to waste money going to school? Why don't we all go into the informal sector? Why don't we all create businesses so that we can support the nation?
Thank you so much once again. It's an interesting question. First of all, I ask to differ from your opinion.
Okay.
Those who are in the informal sector are not necessarily uneducated. So that is the same mindset that I talked about. If I have gone to school or I am being prepared to be employed in the so-called white-collar jobs, it doesn't matter anymore. So I can get from the university with a bachelor's, a very nice degree in electrical engineering, and I'll still go to downtown and do informal businesses. So it doesn't matter. So, but at the end of the day, do you have the capacity to identify a challenge or to identify an opportunity and provide a solution to the people around you? So that's what matters. And the so-called informal sector, well, maybe it depends on one's opinion, but my definition of the informal sector is it is not structured, okay? But it doesn't mean it only accommodates people that never went to school. Okay. Yes, so back to the question, education is important. Again, you need to look at the end of the day, what is the objective of this of education? Is it to merely find jobs or be in employment, those nice SE offices? No. The sole objective of education should be acquiring knowledge. So when you acquire the knowledge, it doesn't matter where you apply it, as long as you use it to do something that will benefit you and benefit the people around you. Okay? So, and that is the same reason why many people in Africa are not employed. We are grappling with unemployment in most African countries. Why? Because of the mindset of I've gone to school to the highest level of education, the highest level possible, that is the university. So when you get out, you do not want to mix with the local business. You cannot be employed. You cannot want to start up a small business. So that mindset has to change. I understand we have many problems as the continent, but we are facing a risk from the so-called the land, because they do not want to mix. We think that we are prepared for a certain class of jobs, and which I feel is not right. And again, of course, that goes back to the kind of mindset that the stakeholders are giving to these people. So, but if these kids, or if the people will be given the right mindset right from the onset, that going to school does not necessarily mean that you find a job. So, but if you have acquired the knowledge, you get out of the school, what can you use this knowledge to do and to provide for the society around you? So that's what matters most. So with or without formal employment, people should survive. Okay, and of course the government should also create an environment that is friendly. Should not overtax these people, should provide easy and quick access to financing, so that people at the end of the day can be able to find capital and provide solutions to challenges. But the narrative of the land prepared for the white collar jobs, in my opinion, does not work, and that should be changed. And education remains very important. Of course, I mean, this is why if you go back in the times, people are uncivilized. Education is has played an important role in the civilization of the world, not just Africa. Okay, because when you go to school, you acquire knowledge. You tend to get to know something that you did not know. So at the end of the day, it improves the way you think, the way you look at things. Perhaps someone looks at that bottle at least disposable as waste. Another person looks at it as an opportunity to make money. So that is where the difference is. So education is important, and it should be workable. Doesn't matter whether you employed in the formal sector or formal sector. Mindset has to change.
Thank you. So we'll be going for commercial break. Welcome back from the break. You are still watching Let's Build Africa. And today's topic again is the missing link between education and employment in Africa. Before the break, my friend here, Mr. Donat, was emphasizing and was explaining on the reason why, even though the informal sector is very important, it does not mean that education should be trashed. You can still go to school, you can still have your degrees, and still enter the informal sector. Okay. So I come to you, Mr. Joe. I have a friend who last week was talking to me about the fact that sometimes you reach a particular level in your academic life where you feel you are in the wrong course or wrong career and you want to divert. But because of the background, sometimes it's difficult, especially in Africa, to divert. Unlike the Western world, you can study arts, maybe you can even do music from high school and even enter even college, do music to some extent. And still, if you want to divert to do medicine, it is possible. There is a route to go. What is your take on this?
Well, like I said before, any education system which does not bring out the best in you is not designed for you. So the system in Africa is not designed for us. It's designed to make us understand to those who design the system. If it were designed for us, it would be possible to change along the way. And it is very common to find many graduates who are not satisfied with what they study. They feel they study their own courses. It happens to many of our students. This happens because when they were young, their interests were not detected. So they were not groomed in areas of their interest. This is the challenge. So in the Western world, a child goes to school to study something which is in line with his interest. But in Africa, that is not the case. We don't care so much about what a child is interested in. So the solution is very simple. Identify the areas of interest of the child as early as possible and let him study courses in those areas. Do not let him go to a medical school when he wants to be a musician as a child. Do not dictate what your child should study. Let the child study in his areas of interest. That will solve the problem. Now, about changing from one point to another, that for now involves the government. Because in the Western world, the system is designed to allow people to change. Somebody can study music in high school and in college he goes for something else. But it is not the case in Africa. Now, this one, the average person has no control about it because it is in the hands of the government. So this one, the government can redesign. We actually need to redesign the education system in Africa so that it can bring out the best in Africans. Because along the way, when someone discovers that they are studying the wrong course, there should be a way out for them. We should design an escape route because eventually it becomes a prison. When you're studying what you don't like, what you're not interested in, it becomes like a prison. A prisoner locked up in a physical prison can be more free than you who is studying a course you're not interested in. It becomes so boring. That also explains why some people get out of school and they become so disappointed and frustrated because they studied the wrong courses. The wrong courses are the courses that are not in line with their interest. You can never get fulfilled when you're doing what is not in your area of interest. If you're doing what you're not interested in, you will not even be so motivated to do it. You will have to be pushed to do something. If you're being pushed to do something, you will not get any sense of fulfillment from it. Because the human nature by design, we want to be free. We want to do things out of free will. So fulfillment only comes when you're doing things in areas in which you are naturally interested in, so that nobody pushes you to do something, you're self-motivated, you're self-determined, and you can go on your own. That happens in the Western world. But in Africa, the people who take us to school naturally determine what we study. It's a big challenge. It happened to me. My family members wanted me to study medicine. I was not interested in medicine, no interest at all. But just because my elder sister did not make it to the medical school, and I was next. So they said, because she did not make it to medical school, I was supposed to know. But my interest was engineering. So it was a battle, but unfortunately, I won that battle. And I went to the engineering school. Yeah. So we need to change that. We need to allow our children to study in the areas of interest so that in the end, they can be fulfilled with the results they get from school.
So, Joe,
Yeah.
I think my question to you is from this same topic. Now, do you think it is advisable for the government in power to appoint managerial positions for institutions? Like, for instance, we're talking about education, so education institutions, like, do you think that maybe the president or the government should be allowed to appoint maybe vice chancellor, to be allowed to appoint pro-vice chancellor? Looking at the way the political system in Africa sometimes influences decisions. What do you think? Do you think they should be allowed to, or there should be a structure where things of that nature should be handled by the university board, should be handled by people who have no interest in politics?
Very beautiful question. Now, the government is supposed to be for the people in a democratic system. And the government is supposed to serve the interests of the people. If in a particular situation, the interest of the people is that the government should do something, then the government has to do what is in the interest of the people. But now looking at universities, in government there's a lot of politics. If you politicize education loses its relevance. It becomes irrelevant. So that's why education institutions, especially higher education institutions, they need some degree of autonomy, so that they can make certain decisions without necessarily being dictated upon by the government. For example, I don't think it is fully right for the government to appoint like the vice chancellor or the chancellor. The government has more important things to do. The university can do that through the board. What's the function of the board then? The university council or the board becomes irrelevant if the government comes to do the work of the board. To me, I think it doesn't really make a lot of sense. There's no wisdom in that. Because why does the board exist in the first place? Or the university council? Those are issues that can be handled by the council. Yeah, the government can come in case of very critical decisions which need to be made. So I think it is right for the universities to be autonomous to some level so that they can make certain decisions without crying out to the government.
Okay, so now we are getting to the end of the show. So I would like to get some final remarks from each of you. So about, in summary, what you feel is the missing link between education and employment in Africa. So I'll start with you, Mr. Donat.
In any kind of system, you have an output, you expect you have an input, you expect an output. So now, the output, in most cases, the ends should justify the means, and the means is the system, and the input, is the scholar. So what we need to do within the system, within the means, is to create, strategies, put in place strategies that will improve the scalability, the practicability of learners to be able to get skills. Because experience has already shown that people are getting out of school looking for jobs, even when they are not employable. Okay? So an engineer gets out of school, but they do not know how a generator looks like. They cannot repair a bicycle. They cannot design and put up a small two-bedroom house. So we need to use the market, okay, the employment market, to determine the kind of means. And the kind of means in this case is to improve the scalability, the profitability of the learning process.
Wow. Thank you very much. Jojo, like to hear from you too.
Well, one of the best books I've ever read in my life was written by Carter Woodson J. The Miseducation of the Negro. In the book, he wrote that a mere impartation of information is not education. Education is supposed to make one think and do for himself. So our system does not make us think and do for ourselves. When we get out of school, we become dependent. We don't get out of school when we're independent. Why? Because we have knowledge in our heads, but we lack the skills. The skills make you independent. The knowledge alone will make you dependent. So we need to change that. Go to school, acquire knowledge, as well as skills. Alexander Pope said, a little learning is a dangerous thing. Drink deep, or taste not, the freedom spring. Now, when you go to school, do not learn a little about something. Go outside the curriculum and acquire skills, because not all the skills will be taught in class. You need to go outside and venture on your own and build the skills. Because when you get out of school, it's the skills that will actually make you able to apply the knowledge you have in your head. So on the part of the government, we need to redesign the education system so that we can identify the interests of our learners as early as possible, and then we groom them along the areas in which they're interested in. And then also we should provide a clear path where when one discovers that they took the wrong path, we should provide an escape route for them so that they can shift to something else along the way. This is currently, it is not existent. Now parents need to make sure they help their children to identify their talents as gifts as possible and develop those talents as gifts and gifts as much as possible, because they do not know at the end of the day how the child is going to survive out of school. If it depends so much on the knowledge we are taking from school, without adding on the knowledge, our gifts and talents, it becomes a problem. We get out of school and we are trapped looking for jobs. So when we have only one way to survive, and that way is not working out, we become so frustrated. So at the end of the day, we need to do our best to educate ourselves. And we should not expect anyone to do for us what we're supposed to do for ourselves. It is our responsibility, our collective responsibility. Everyone has a role. So everybody should do their part. At the end of the day, we will be able to educate our children, and we will be able to build our continent.
Wow, thank you very much. So soon, we have come to the end of today's segment. Let's build Africa. Thank you very much, Mr. Jonas, for gracing us. Thank you for coming and sharing your knowledge and sharing your insight to the public so that they can also learn.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Joe, thank you also very much.
You're the best host.
Thank you. Thank you. And I thank Priana TV too for this segment. It has been very good. My clothing was by Adinkra. He made my clothing. It's very nice. So
African wear.
Building
Africa.
We should patronize African fabric.
Buy Africa, build Africa.
Exactly. So we'll come your way again next week at the same time to give you another topic. Thank you very much, viewers. Thank you for spending time to listen and listening to us. Thank you very much. We'll say bye now.
Priana TV. Watch all you want. Priana TV. Watch all you want.